Hey friends, Russ here again, back in the workshop, and I just want to talk to you a little bit about a project that I've been thinking about and working on until I finally have something that works here. Every time I get the chance, I buy old beat up Daisy lever guns. The fun part about these for me is getting them back in some sort of working order. You can't really have a lot of fun with one if there's too many parts missing that you can't easily replace. Now, I don't know exactly what happens to all the removable shot tubes that are missing from so many guns that I've picked up, but I got to tell you, I know there's a warehouse somewhere full of these things because they don't just evaporate. Over the years, maybe some people have decided to take them out of their child's gun because they were getting in trouble with them and they let them play with the gun but not have a shot tube in it. I don't know. That's one theory. But I do know that if you have a gun that has the shot tube missing, you're pretty much stuck with either replacing it with something else, like a force-fed shot tube, like in the Model 25, or getting a gun that has a similar type and length shot tube that you can switch them out. But that always leaves at least one gun without a shot tube that you're going to have to hope to find, or in the case of what I've done, actually make a shot tube. And I'm going to show you how to do that, or how I've done it right now. This gun here, actually, it has a shot tube in it. This is an old Model 99. It's a target type gun that Daisy produced. They're really nice to shoot. And when I got it, it looked pretty much the same way you see it right here. It's rough. It's needy. There are some things here that are just, well, it needs a lot of work to make it look good. But inside, the innards actually still operate. Maybe not up to full capacity, but hey, it's a step in the right direction. It did have a problem with the trigger. Now, excuse me, you'll notice that this trigger is the target gun type of trigger, and it's an assembly inside here. It wasn't working either. It had a problem. Usually, whenever you get one of these that has a problem, it's something simple like the spring is dislodged, and that's exactly what happened with this one. So we got that working, put it back in, found out that the gun does cock, and it catches like it should. Sounds a little weak, but it does do the job. The shot tube in this particular gun happens to be one of the force-fed type. It's what you might see in an old Model 25, and in several of the Daisy lever guns use this type also. It has the spring retainer to hold the BB in place so that whenever one's fed, it doesn't roll out. This one's not in bad shape. It is a little crushed right here, and that happens quite a bit from people slamming this thing shut. But the spring still operates well in it. It holds the BBs. It's not bent. So I'm glad this gun has this original shot tube in it. But so many of the guns I get, especially these wide frame Daisies, because the removable shot tubes are so easy to take out, so many of them just don't have the shot tube. Now, if you've ever thought about what could you do to replace that with something that you've made, one of the biggest issues that I hear people talking about is they have to order or buy from someplace online a proper piece of tubing to use as the shot tube. This is a remnant of something that I bought. It's just about the right size. It's just probably inside, I think it's about 5 millimeters, maybe. Perfect size. If you take a BB, it's just enough room to fit in there, and it rolls all the way out. So that's pretty good to start with. But you know what this is? It's a piece of hydraulic line that I got from the auto parts store. It's a 6 millimeter line. The exterior of it is just about 6 millimeters. So the inside of it is just about the right size to use to shoot a BB. Smooth bore, welded seam because there's nothing visible in here, and I thought that would be a good way to start. Two types of shot tubes are made for these. Some are the bottle cap type that fit over top of here whenever you tighten them, and some are this type, which the cap actually fits inside of the outer barrel. Well, you know what I discovered? This is a 12 gauge shotgun shell. And a 12 gauge shotgun shell is just the right size, and I'm going to use this piece of cut-off outer barrel that I did from one of my project guns. It fits right inside of there. It's just loose enough not to be a snug fit, so that whenever you're screwing the new shot tube in and out, it's perfect. I got a whole bunch of these actually for free because I went up to the local gun range and I asked them if they had any empties, and it was pretty much all I could carry. So what I did, I took them home. You knock out the primer from the inside. They're easily knocked out. I just took a nail, put it in there. Make sure that it's a spent cartridge though. You don't want to hit a good primer because it could cause problems. And you don't want to take a live shell to see if it's going to fit and stick it backwards into your gun. That's asking for nothing but problems. So, a 12 gauge shotgun shell is just the right size to make the front end of your new shot tube. This is what we have right here. I took a 12 gauge shotgun shell and I beefed it up by attaching a steel washer to the top of it. Made sure the inner drilling would accommodate the new shot tube. On the back end, I needed something that would screw in. You know, that's a 7/16 by 14 thread. And I needed something that would screw easily into the back or the breech of the BB gun. This thread right here. Now, I did not make it so that it would slip. A lot of the ones that have the bottle cap over the top, you put them in and then it'll keep turning so that you are able to accommodate a loading hole on the outer barrel. Wasn't able to do that easily, so I just left a straight thread. And if this looks a little undersized to you, that's because it is. Instead of being 7/16, I was able to find a piece of aluminum rod that happened to be about, I think it came out to about 8 millimeter. And I center drilled it, and I used a die, a 7/16 by 14 thread die, and I was able to cut just enough thread on there to catch the abutment on the inside of the front of the receiver. And I can show you what one of those looks like because let's see if I find them here. They all look something like this. And these are mounted inside the gun in that direction so that whenever you're taking your shot tube and screwing it in, it goes in. I only put a few threads because I didn't want it to go in too far and push against the abutment spacer on the inside. Now, if you're wondering how I got this all attached, that's quite simple. I drilled through the cap on this and I put two very small nails in here, and this is epoxy putty. You mix that up and it gets hard, pretty much like a piece of stone, and it grabs on nicely to whatever you have there. Now, the odd grab that I needed, I accomplished with the shaft of those two nails coming in. Plus, I wanted it to grab onto this, so I did some filing on it to make it irregular. Once this epoxy hardens on there, it's tight. It is not coming loose. On the back end, inside of this wad of epoxy that I have put on there and ground down to be small enough to fit inside the sleeve on the inside of the gun, inside of there I have a little magnet. I had cut through where these two were put together. I drilled out the front of this so that would fit in, and I made it tight. I filed in a space so that the steel that was left on here was virtually non-existent, and I wedged a magnet in there. The magnet will keep the BB in place so that whenever you're moving your gun around, it doesn't come out. Put the epoxy on, ground it down. Now you could say, well, you don't have to use epoxy and make it look ugly if you do some good machining work. Well, that's true, but what fun is that? Plus the fact I don't have lathes and the grinding equipment that I need to do any fine machining on good pieces of metal. This is a functioning shot tube. It transfers the gun from being a multi-shot to a muzzle loading single shot. But if you don't have a shot tube, this is the next best thing. So everybody's probably wondering if it works. Actually, let me demonstrate. Put that in there. Give it a turn. And there it is. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to cock it to pull the air tube back far enough. We're going to take a BB, drop it into the muzzle. The BB does not roll out because it's caught on the little magnet inside. Now this is cocked and ready to fire, so I need something, even though it's very weak, I'm still not going to take chances. So I'm going to fire into something soft here, and you'll be able to see what happens. Here's the BB. Right there. You see that? Here's the BB. Okay. So if you're wondering if you really can find things easily to recreate shot tubes and get a gun that doesn't function back into service again, the answer is yes. With a little luck, a little imagination, some basic tools, and some empty shotgun shells. Well, there it is, folks. That's everything for today. Don't forget to subscribe if you have any other ideas or if you have any suggestions on how to refine any of the things that we do here. Please give me a call. Love to hear from you. This is Russ. We'll see you next time.